No, I'm good. I promise.
Did she say sprinkles?
Yeah, she did say sprinkles.
All right, so we did An American Marriage.
I went back and reread it this time,
I can't believe that.
but
Wait,
well,
but you
last time
listened
I
to it
felt
the first time, right?
no, I actually read it the first time and then I reread it. I didn't make it to the end, but I think I remember how it ends.
Well, we might not even talk about that. So
Okay,
I don't know.
that's fine.
Sometimes we spoil it, and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
So I have Jennifer Lee / Zerwinski with me. We go back to college. I was her houseboy. What a weird
That's
name
yeah,
that
don't
is.
use that. How about neighbor? You could just say friend
I
and
know.
neighbor. Yeah.
Right, neighbor, friend.
Such a demeaning term,
It is.
houseboy.
Hopefully they've changed it since then, but probably not.
I don't
I
know.
was there. I was there pretty much. I just made dinner.
Because those houses aren't even there anymore, right?
No. Yeah. Just for people, just for us, just for nobody's watching, but we lived in a fraternity and sorority houses that were connected by hallway.
Yeah.
What an interesting thing.
So I loved it, but
I loved
it
it.
was such a
I loved
contentious, like so many people didn't love it. I don't understand.
it. Yeah. Well,
We're right by our door.
yeah, it wasn't. It was a little sketchy. So,
Okay.
this is a book by Tayari Jones, and honestly, I didn't look to see if she has any other books out.
She does. I Googled her yesterday, and my daughter, my kid's like, "What are you doing?" This was like the third. Let me quickly look it back up. This was like her third, but it made its name because Oprah chose it.
Right, I think I have one of her book club addictions. You look that up. I'm going to read the back.
Okay.
It's a captivating love story that is also clear-eyed look at the effects of injustice in contemporary American life. Tayari Jones' novel gorgeously chronicles three people who are bound together and separated by forces beyond their control. As newlyweds, Celestial and Roy are living the American dream. He is a young executive, and she is an artist on the brink of an exciting career. But after Roy's incarceration for a crime he did not commit, Celestial, bereft and unmourned, turns to a childhood friend and Roy's best man, Andre, for support. As Roy's absence drags on, Celestial faces a soul-wrenching decision about balancing loyalty with independence, desire with social familial expectations, and what is right with what is fair and to whom.
Yep.
So,
okay. Sorry,
okay.
I just
No, you're
dropped my iPad, which knocked over my water. It's all a big mess down
Perfect.
here. Okay.
Last show, I knocked over a plant that was over here. And I acted like it was no big deal. And afterwards, it literally took me like 40 minutes to clean up all the debris.
You're like, no, it's fine. And then you're like, oh, geez. So her other novels were called Silver Sparrow, The Untelling, and Leaving Atlanta. And I can tell you that I also read she is from Wikipedia. I know it's unreliable Wikipedia, but let's just go with it. It's decent.
I'll tell you, they did a study. They compared Wikipedia to Britannica, all online encyclopedias, and it's better information than any of those.
Yeah.
So it's good.
So she's from Atlanta, went to Emory, or I'm sorry, not Emory, Spelman College, and works at Emory University, or probably like now just isn't, honorary or teaches every once in a while, those kind of things. So yeah.
She's awesome. I love this book.
Okay. So I guess it's just been a genre or a category of books that have intrigued me lately. I did like this book more when I was reading it quickly the second time. Okay. But I think it's because the perspective of reading Caste, and I also read Just Mercy. Okay. Have you read that?
I have not. It's been recommended. It's a movie out too now, right?
Yes. And I wanted to watch the movie and somebody said, you really need to read the book. True story. Just dealing with the incarceration part of it. And just the historical aspect of being Black in America and current events. I can't even begin to put myself there. So I don't know. I did enjoy it. I really, and looking back, I was like, oh, I think I liked this more than I thought I did. You know,
I thought she just was. So I'm with you. So I think that you can't learn. I'm so into the Black experience right now.
yeah.
Like I'm reading Cast. I'm almost done with it. We've talked about that, and I've read, the new Jim Crow. I'm reading tons of Black novels, and I think that the reason it's so interesting to me is because it's in front of our faces, and yet, I look at people and be like, how can you turn your back, or how can you not see this? But yet, that's how everybody is until you take a step out and want to learn about it. And that amazes me, to be honest with you. I can't think of another thing that we're so blinded to that is right in front of our face. Like when I read Cast, or as I'm reading it, like, even though I've read so many books on this, Cast puts it in such a simple way, something that is right here, that is real, that we've created, and yet we don't see unless we try to see it. And that's the biggest issue. I mean, and even as good as we think we are and we're trying to learn, we're not there. We're not close to being there, know?
And I just think there's so many more people who aren't trying to learn and won't see it. Like, it could be right in front of your face. I feel like as educators, it gives us a different perspective. I feel like being a woman, it gives me a different perspective, just because
you,
like,
it's a same thing. I mean,
it is.
There
like,
is
as a white
difference.
male, I feel like you might have more things to look past
to learn.
Yeah, to learn.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I don't know how to, like, I can't even,
you're right.
I'm not comparing myself to the Black experience, but when things happen in society, and you're like, yeah, that happens to women a lot, and my husband will be like, what? He has no concept.
We don't notice it. You're right, until you want to notice it. And that takes a lot. It really takes a lot to say, wait a minute.
Impacts you.
Until it impacts you. That's one of the things that drives me bonkers, right?
Yeah.
With the conservatives that love Obamacare once they need it.
Yes.
But they hate it.
Stop it. We're not talking about politics.
No, we're not.
About politics?
No, we're not.
Okay.
But you're right. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So, and the woman thing's a big one.
Yeah.
You're right. And so there's a lot of these layers to look through. And I think this book does that, but it doesn't do it it's not out front. I mean, I think she does a phenomenal job bringing that issue up, showing, the incarceration. They talk about it a couple times at dinner and this and that, a Black man in America, or just being Black in America, but it doesn't cut into the story at all. I mean, she does it so well.
Like, the part I was just on was when Andre was driving to Louisiana and to talk to Roy, without spoiling, and he got in his Mercedes, and he said it's not a good idea to drive it through the back roads of Louisiana in the dark. And it wasn't like it was something that she focused on. It was just matter of fact. Like, a Black man should not be driving through Louisiana back roads in a Mercedes in the dark. And you're like, what? Oh, yeah. But it's not the focus of the novel. Like, all of those experiences are what make the novel, but I don't know.
They make it real.
Yes.
And they make you remember that, okay, this is not just, this is what they're going through. But I guess it makes it authentic, because that's the way they would talk about it. They don't have to explain it to the people. Where a lot of books we're reading, it's like, okay, well, let me explain why. Where they don't need an explanation.
Right.
This is how they're going to talk. Like one part where they're having dinner, again, not to give it away. We'll talk about it. But he said, son, my father said, gripping the dessert spoon like a pitchfork, I have one thing to say to you as a Black man. Roy is a hostage of the state. He is a victim of America. The least you could do is unhand his wife when he gets back. Same thing. He didn't have to. He's not acting like, hey, I gotta. If you said that in a room full of white people at the dinner table, they'd be like, you know, half of them would be like, what are you talking about? There, it's not going to get any complaints. It's not going to get any argument. It's just like, yeah, you're right. You know, this is what we feel.
Yep.
Crazy. So let's say this. So let's start about their relationship to begin with. So we got Celestial and Roy. Roy is a successful man, and he's an executive, and Celestial is a female. She's I think she went to college. She went to 2 colleges, and now she makes dolls, but she's an artist, and she's becoming more, she's starting out, she becomes very famous later in the book. But how do you feel about their relationship before the event, before he gets arrested?
I think it's weird, but I think I can relate to it. Like, it feels very real. You listen to their dialogue and you're like, yeah, I feel like that's a married couple's conversation. If I can't swipe out of you and read my book, but I remember they were struggling with the idea of having kids, and then I don't know, she is a little bit passive aggressive, but I think that's not uncommon for women.
Yeah, she's strong-willed, like she said, she's very independent.
Yeah. So I don't know. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I can relate to her because she's a strong, educated woman who has goals. She's goal driven. And I just like, maybe kind of the same way her parents felt about Roy, that like, okay, he's fine. If he makes you happy, I guess you can marry him. Like, I don't know. There's a level of that. My family's not in the house, so I think I can say that out loud. There's a level of that I think every family goes through, of like, does the spouse meet the expectations, that kind of thing. So
of course, well, that's all parents are going to be super protective of their kids and questioning that. So I guess it's one of those things where I read it, and I did kind of like you. I read it the first time and just read it, and I liked it a lot. And then the second time I kind of liked it more. I didn't read it as thoroughly. I really kind of sped through it. So, but knowing what we know, I had a little bit more scrutinized their relationship in the beginning, just to say, because at the end you're like, well, should they be together? Well, let me see what the beginning was like again. So scrutinizing it again, it just felt like the secrets. There were just too many secrets. You can't have a strong, with everything else working against you, and the little secrets they had. That just showed that their strength probably wasn't there. Right. Because the first one came, she found somebody's phone number in his wallet
on a business card.
On a business card. Right.
And then he's like, oh yeah, and she found a receipt for 2 sets of lingerie. Do you remember seeing that?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And
this is
you're
beginning.
Right. Yes.
So you have that, and then Roy tells him about his father, which I thought was kind of a weird one. Because he promised his mom. I guess I could see her being upset, because what she said, her quote was, "You know something that I don't. I don't like you knowing something that I didn't." And in a relationship, I can see your point. That's kind of what a relationship is. You kind of just let everything out.
That's a big one. When you're married and you're like, oh, I wanted to just let you know that even though we're already married, who my father really is. You're like, what? Yeah,
because they were already married, weren't they?
Yeah.
Right. So that's bad. Right. That's bad. Yeah. That's bad. Now thing. But then you got to think of, though, and this is later, what she was keeping from him. She didn't tell him that whole story about college.
Correct.
Yeah. So, man, I mean, to be built on, it's just an unstable foundation there with them who knows what he's doing with other women. And then, he kept a secret. She still kept a secret, even though she got mad at him. So me going back, because I guess the big question is like at the end of the book, who should she be with? Who, did she do him wrong, or is that normal behavior? So, for those of you that haven't read it, or if you've read it, so the big thing is Roy then gets arrested. He's gets accused of rape in a hotel, but he was with his wife the whole time. So we know, I mean, we know he did not do it. We know he's an innocent man that gets blamed for this rape. But then things start to, obviously, in any relationship, things are going to go south from there. Let me just say, he did say to her, which I forgot the first time I read, he said to her, don't wait for me.
Yeah.
Why? Why would he do that?
I don't know. I don't know. But at the same time, like, I wonder if, because neither of us has been through this, I wonder if,
fingers crossed,
it's kind of like when
you jinxed us.
I know, God, when you lose a spouse and you say to them, like, I don't want you to be alone forever. Right. If he did not envision as a Black man that he would ever get out, why is he going to make her wait all those years? So if
but did he mean?
Go ahead.
Did he mean it? No.
I don't know. You don't think so?
I think it's one of those things you say.
What if it was somebody else, though, and not Andre?
No, I think it's one of those things you say for a reaction. You say it, you don't mean it. You say it just to see what she's going to say in return.
Well, why would you say it if you don't mean it? It's such a dude thing to say.
No, I'm not saying that some people don't. Some people mean it, but I don't think Roy did because of the way he reacts.
Yeah, that's true. But do you think he would have reacted differently if it was a different person? What do you think?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, it's a best friend. Like, put yourself in that situation. Yeah. You get out of prison, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would have. I think they loved each other. Yeah. I think he loved her. No, I don't think it would have mattered because he was pretty much, from then on out, he's just like 12 years, you're going to be there, Yeah. And when she said I moved on, he was like, I don't want to be your friend,
Right. And one of my that I will tell you too, that's one of my favorite that was one of my favorite sections in the book was their letters back and forth while he was in jail. I love it. Mm-hmm.
I do too.
And you're right that as soon as she said, I don't think I want to be married anymore. He's like, fine, we're done. I don't want, you're out. Yeah. Go.
You're off. Fine. You're off the visitation list.
Yeah.
Like,
just
whoa.
Move on. And you're like, okay.
Right.
It's a little harsh, but but yeah, there were again those underlying things like you tell me this, you tell me that. There was also the other without ruining
you can say it.
Well, she also took care of her like she was pregnant, remember? And so she also did that without him being there, and it was like one thing after another after another. I'm sure he felt betrayed. Then why did he go back? That I don't know either.
Well, with that was I think that was a really good part of the book. The misinterpretation of emotion that went into their conversation where Roy is not sentenced yet to jail. He's in court. He's looking sickly. She finds out she's pregnant from him, and she goes in and says, I'm pregnant. And he says, you can't have that baby with me in jail as a reaction, right? I think that's pretty much what he said.
Yeah.
You can't have that baby. She goes home and has an abortion. But then their letters show a little bit different story. He kind of blames her and says, that's not what I meant, and he really puts it on her hard, right? I mean, he put it on her pretty bad.
That's twice now that he's said things that he didn't really mean for her to follow through on.
Right.
Like, go be with someone else, but really I didn't mean it.
Right.
You can't have that baby, but really, I don't know if I wanted you to actually do that.
And the things that he was saying to her too was just rough. I mean, just reading that, and she wrote, I think her next letter was, don't ever write a letter like that to me again, because in his letter, he was saying things like, man, I know he was a junior. And can you imagine? Like, I didn't really mean it because all his grandparents could have helped taking care of him. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, she already did this, and now you're going to say this shit to her? I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah. But it was real. That's the thing about this book. And that's what why I think I enjoyed it so much is that that's real stuff that happens. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if you know, but Kim and I,
I'm in the basement right now.
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah. You misunderstand some things, right? Like I didn't mean it like that. Oh, well, that's how you said it. I mean, that's especially in the heat of what they were going through. I mean, that's why I thought that was so real. You have this big issue. They couldn't really talk about it a lot, and then, man. I mean, that was. I thought she handled it amazingly. The author.
Yeah.
Then what do we get? So he's still in jail. She becomes famous for her dolls, and then she was given a speech and didn't mention him. And then there's an article I think out where she doesn't mention her husband or that he's in jail.
Yeah.
What do you think? Would you have mentioned him?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, maybe that makes me heartless. But
no, I think it's real. It's real.
I know. I think that there has to be some understanding of like, she's growing her name and she's growing a business and she's becoming the person that she wanted to be. And you can't really put this it's already hard enough, I would think, to be a Black woman and then become something out of this.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Like to make something of yourself. And then, it seems well known in society that being Black it makes it harder. And then you throw an incarcerated husband on top. You're just
stereotype.
You're putting that resume right back at the bottom of the pile. And I can totally understand. But again, Roy overreacts.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I can see both points. I think like you, like for her, she knows that nobody's going to think he's innocent. She knows he's innocent, but she's not going to get up there and talk about it. If she were to mention her husband and they found out he's in jail, then automatically he's guilty. So I can see her point right there, because then they're just going to be like, oh, and that could ruin her.
Yep.
But I can see his point too. Obviously, my goodness, my wife, it just dropped me.
Yeah.
And she knows I'm innocent.
And she's using his likeness for her fame too. That's another like, besides the little jailbird baby doll, all the dolls look like him.
Right.
So it's like she wants her cake and eat it too. Like, I hope you don't mind that I use your likeness to become famous, but I just don't want to tell anybody about you because I'm famous.
Right.
So it's super real. And as the more we say that, like, one really deep thought that I had was that like it's called An American Marriage, and the characters are African American, but really it could apply to so many American lives. Incarceration obviously is the key, but the rest of the story, I don't know if you can exclude that, but the rest of the story, the miscommunication, the passive aggressiveness, all of that is so typical of a marriage.
Yeah. So I think I agree. So the way that I was looking at it is they didn't have a strong foundation. A lot of people don't. Some people
put it
do.
in the freezer for now. Ice cream snack.
Nice. Yeah.
I know.
Pretty soon. Yeah. So you don't have a great strong foundation. Then sometimes kids help build a foundation. They didn't get to that point. And then, like you said, and people change, but he had to change, obviously, where he even says later, jail changed me, and they could not. I guess that's my thing. It is the big question is, did she make the wrong decision? Now she goes with Andre, his best friend. But people that haven't read the book, just so you know, Andre was also her best friend before Roy's, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they grew up next door to each other. And so she's known Andre since they were little kids. I think they like bathed together. I think they even said, right? Something like that.
They were just real little and knew each other the whole life. And then Andre actually is the guy that introduced her to Roy. And then and now, while Roy's in jail, she is starting to change the relationship from Roy from best friend to partner. Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts on that?
I don't like it, but I don't like it, but I just reread the part again that said, like, her mom said, I think you're just doing it because it's convenient. Mm-hmm. And then she was talking to Andre about it, and she's like, all of this is a huge disaster. I'm still married. My husband's getting out of jail. Like, we live next door to each other. Nobody likes this. I'm not really sure that anything about it is nothing's convenient. Right. So I'm not really making the easiest choice.
Right.
I still don't like it.
I don't like it either. And good. I almost hated reading Andre. I almost wish she left Andre out of the book. Mm-hmm. You know, but I hated reading his parts. I did start to feel for him a little bit. You know, he was, because they were giving it to him. Andre would go to like his own dad, or he'd go to her dad, and or Roy's dad. I mean, all these dads are like, dude, you are wrong. You are dirty.
And he was doing it anyway.
Right. That's and he was doing
mad. Like, he didn't listen. Ugh.
But then I tried to put myself in his point of view. He's loved her forever. He's probably loved her his whole life.
Yes.
And so he's not looking at it as like, hey, I'm sliding in. He's looking at it as like, we were always meant to be. I love her. She's the only person I probably ever loved like this. And this is kind of just the natural progression of things. It was meant to kind of come to this because she, in his point of view, she can't go back to Roy. Roy's changed. He's 12 years. She wants to have kids. I don't know. I mean, I'm just being devil's advocate. Where, like I said, when I'm reading it, I'm not liking Andre, but there are some things in there that he said, and I'd have to find them where my heart was like, wow, man, you know, he does really love her. And I think he always has.
It was, so clarification, Roy was in jail for 5 years.
Right. But it was sentenced. But in their mind, they're thinking 12. So good. I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
He had so many other opportunities. Like at the same time, the convenience of having Roy in a place where he can't get out, so then he can take advantage of the situation to finally be with Celestial, to me is like, I don't like it. He had so many other
But she chances. Wasn't ready
Didn't
yet.
He?
Yeah, but doesn't mean she was giving him a chance. She never gave him that chance to be a lover, and now she is. And so I don't know. I don't know if you can blame him. So wait, 274. I think I got it here.
I love how you mark up your books.
Yeah, I kill them. They're bad. That's the sad thing I think all the time. Like, I tell my kids joking around, like, when I'm, these books are going to be yours someday. And they're like, shut up. And I'm like, oh, wait, you probably won't be able to read them. They're really bad. Read it. So this is a chapter Andre, I believe. Okay, so this is Andre. Celestial's talking to Roy, explaining things. I was silent as Celestial explained. Her words were those we agreed upon, but now they rang less true. Were we saying that our relationship was an accident of circumstance? Were we saying, too, we loved each other only because Roy had been unavailable? That was a lie. We loved each other because we always had, and I refused to ever claim anything different. And so what he
nicely done finding that.
Thank you. So he was not saying, I mean, in his perspective, only looking at his perspective, not Celestial.
Yeah.
But his perspective, he just was like, man, this is a girl I completely love. I have my whole life. And it's not because Ray was put away. It's just because maybe she needed to find herself, see who she was. This guy is going to be gone 12 years. I don't know. I don't hate him as much. I really don't. I think that, it's dirty. This whole thing, but isn't that life? I mean, kind of, sort of. Yeah.
Okay. And I also want to say that wasn't their first romantic encounter was after Roy's mom's funeral. Mm-hmm. They went and got drunk. Mm-hmm. And Andre was like, are you really sure you want to do this? Mm-hmm. Like he kind of knew this might not be the best opportunity, even though we love each other. And she was like, I don't know what chapter. You could probably find the page
I
better.
found it. So here,
oh my
well, this is where I have notes. I do notes. So this is where she picked
What
Andre.
note did you write down? Drunken encounter?
Yeah. No, why pick Andre?
Oh.
So why pick Andre? How did you end? This is when he said to her, Roy, how did you end up picking Dre over me? And this is when you said it. Different time in the book, though. The true answer was that Olive had settled it by lying in her coffin as Big Roy showed me what real communion looked like, what it sounded like, even what it smelled like, fresh earth and sadness. I could never tell Roy that by his parents' measure, what we had wasn't a connection for the ages. Our marriage was a sapling graft that didn't have time to take. So when she was with him that night is when she made her epiphany, looking at Roy's parents at his mom's funeral and saying,
this is not the marriage I have.
Like we said before, they didn't have a stable foundation. They could have made one. It didn't have time to take. He got put in jail wrongly, and and it didn't have the time to grow the right way. It had to grow the wrong way. And so she saw this man that she loved and saw that they did have that communion, what she calls that connection, and changed your mind.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think so too. Until I read, so there's another book club. As a guy on Instagram, and I have the book page. I follow other people, and they have other book clubs, and they put out the question out there: what did she make the wrong move? Was she really in love with him? And when I answered them, because I kind of texted back and forth, I gave a different answer until I reread it again. Because I think I was a little bit harsher on her. I think I kind of said, a victim of circumstance, kind of took the easy way. And now, especially after reading that, I don't know if she took, like even what you said before, it wasn't easy. Nothing about it was easy. It wasn't.
No. And again, I'm not saying it's the right way, but when you envision that your husband, who won't divorce you, is in prison, you get lonely. And Andre was her companionship through the whole thing. Right. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that therein lies a convenience answer, but she needed someone. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think that's why this is one of the realest, and we say that, I said that before, I don't even know another word for it. But just so much that happens in the book is messy, but it's not outlandish. It's messy, but if you put yourself in almost everybody's shoes, you can understand them. I think a lot of books, I just read A Little Life. Have you heard of that or read that? Good book, good, well written, just exaggerated,
By whom?
You're a Gari? You're a Gara?
I don't know.
I'll send you a link. But it's a phenomenal book. It's 800 pages long, though. It's a very
Don't send me the link.
It's a very popular book. Very popular book, very triggering book. But at the same time, as good as the writing is, it's not believable. There's a lot it's outstretched in this. Whereas this one, everybody, even down to her father, or just the way everybody treated what was going on, was just like, wow, she was able to put herself completely into their perspective.
Yep.
You don't see that a lot. You
could almost say, like, it is a work of fiction, but it's obviously realistic, but you could be like, based on a true story. It could be almost anybody's true story.
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Spoiler alert. You don't remember the ending.
I don't.
I didn't either.
I remember the tree. I remember the tree getting
old hickory.
Old hickey.
Old hickey. Good. See, you got it better. He didn't get chopped down.
Oh.
He got chopped at.
Okay.
There's a difference because there's a point in the book. So Old Hickey was a book that was in Andre's yard, who was her neighbor growing up, and she felt like every time she was under that tree, she felt like great, like contentment and peace. That was her place for peace. And so Roy, when he has this big confrontation with Celeste and Andre, he starts chopping the tree, starts trying to kill himself against the tree, hitting his head. Later, you find out that they had an arborist come out, look at the tree, and the tree is about 128 years old. And he looked at it and said it's going to live another 128 years. So old Hick is good. But but so the end was after that confrontation, she takes him back, which it's so funny because I didn't remember the end at all either because the book is so full.
Yeah.
Really, the meat of it is a lot of books you're worried about the end. This one is the meat is where it's at. Yeah. The end is, whatever. But as I reread the end, I'm like, wow, this is a really good ending.
I do want to, I'm going to go finish it later. I was about 40 pages from the end. And
can I tell you or not? Do you want to know?
Go ahead. I've already read it. I just can't remember. Go ahead.
So she takes him back.
Okay.
And the weird part was the first night, and it shows how much he changed. He talks about he killed somebody in jail, which was like, he only talks about for a second. I forgot about that part after I read it the first time. Some guy tried to kill him with a sharpened toothbrush. Okay. And he says, I've changed. And then the first night when they were going to have sex, she was hesitant. And he's like, I could take it if I wanted to. If I wanted to, I could. Do you remember that?
No.
Blew my mind. Because you're like, the whole reason you're in this predicament is you get attempted rape. And I think what she was trying to show is how much you've changed in jail, because now you're actually threatening it. 249. What's he say to her? He says, he turned, pressing my chest with his own. He said, with a trace of menace, I could take it if I wanted to. I didn't struggle. I didn't plead. I braced myself for what seemed fated from the moment I entered my own home and felt that it was no longer mine. I could, he said. Yet he raised himself off from the bed, wrapping the sheet around himself like a winding cloth, leaving me cold and exposed. I could, but I won't. So, yeah, just shows like that. Whoa, you've changed a little bit since jail. Now the whole thing, you never would have been a rapist. You were innocent.
Yeah.
She could have never imagined him. Now he's coming and saying that to her.
Yeah.
Then he changes it. So then the fight comes with the Hickory. She goes back to him only because she watched him almost kill himself. But then he comes back, and this is where it kind of says it. He takes it all, which is interesting. Let me see where he says. He pretty much says at the end, man, where is it? I could have if I wanted to. So at the end, she goes back to him, but then he uses the same words. And he says, listen, I'm never going to force somebody to be with me. And almost like, hey, I would never, almost this different type of rape. I'm never going to force somebody to be with me. And that kind of ends it. You don't know what happens. And then they have the epilogue. And essentially, he lets her go. He goes with that bartender, Davina or whatever. Mm-hmm. Davina. And then she already has kids, so he decides, no, I'm good with that. But then she goes back with Andre.
Okay.
And she's pregnant, but they have a good relationship.
Oh. Okay.
They have a good relationship, and they're kind of like cool. And yeah,
I think too much for them to get through. Like too much baggage to like start again. I mean, you already know that somebody wanted to divorce you. You already know, randomly, this is another secret that she betrayed of his. Do you remember? He lived with his biological in prison.
Oh, right.
And told her, but said like, please don't tell Olive. And the last thing she told his mother was that he was living with his father. Like, and so she betrayed that trust again. Like, so there were just so many things that even if they tried to get back together,
No way.
it never would have worked.
No,
Never
and
would have worked.
especially if you found out about the college stuff that she didn't let him know about. Yeah, it would have fallen apart. But here's the end. This is Roy. I'll just give the last paragraph. But mostly my life is good. Only it's different type of good from what I figured on. Some days I get antsy and start talking to Davina about pulling up stakes and starting over in Houston, New Orleans, or even Portland. She humors me, but when I'm done, she smiles because we both know I'm not going anywhere. And when she smiles at me, I can't help giving one back. This is home. This is where I am. So he settled, finally.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really cool ending.
Yeah.
They're both
in his
happy.
Hometown.
In his hometown.
That's what, yeah.
Yep. One final question.
Sure.
Early in the book, I think it's like page 8, and I noticed this before, but I think it's she's trying to say something, and I really truly don't know the answer to this, but she says something like, let me see if it is on page 8. Roy says, if we ever do have a child together, here it is. I have half a mind to ask her if we could name our child son or daughter, quote unquote, Future. He wanted to name his kid Future. That's on page 8.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, that's what I love about. I try to tell my kids and people that don't read much. I'm like, there's no mistake in a book. They put every line in there on purpose.
Yeah.
And so that one just kind of cut me because I'm like, I can't figure it out.
Why he would choose that name?
Or why? Yeah. What does that even mean? What is the author Jones trying to say? Hey, if I could name our kid, me and Celestial, he wanted to have a kid. He talked about it all the time.
Yeah.
I want to name her Future. I don't know. Do you find that interesting?
Yeah. I mean, so many like book clubs and readings of things later, you can say, number one, when you create a child, you are creating your future.
There you go.
And then you could also say that one of the things that she did when he was in prison, because she chose not to have the child, was destroyed their future. So if I'm looking at it from the perspective of the author, that maybe she went back and put that in later. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
After those things had happened, that she might have said, this would be a cool little thing that she put in there.
I just thought of this too, is just saying, maybe it's telling us, for those that reread it and don't catch it the first time, that he will have a kid, because it'll come in the future. Right now is not going to it's not going to happen now. And because at the end of the book, he pretty much says, I want a kid, but the Davina's already got a kid and it's not in the cards. So maybe,
but it is in the future.
Yeah. Or maybe that is maybe his kid is his future. Maybe that's his kid. Maybe his kid, maybe he gives birth to, this is out there, but you know what I'm saying? This is when you go, this is a college.
This is when you've read it
this is when you're
times.
This is when you're stoned, right?
Yeah.
And you say his kid is his new future, right?
Yeah.
That it's not an actual child, but it's just being able
That's
to
what you come up with at 3 a.m.
Exactly.
And you still have to finish the paper.
Right. And your teacher said, oh, that's out there. That's crazy. Right. That's out there. But maybe, I mean, because I saw that today and I'm like, I don't know what she was trying to get to by that, but maybe that's it. Because he didn't have a future. Once he got arrested, his future was done. And just to be able to go on and live and be happy, that's what you're going to live with. That's yours. So crazy.
I dig it.
Okay.
You're so funny.
I love it. I love it too. So thank you for doing this again.
You're welcome again. Anytime. Like you read some really cool books, and some, like you just said, whatever that 800-page one, I have zero interest. So, but thank you.
You know what? It's funny. We did that last time, and that was my my statement on it was I don't think I could recommend it to somebody just because it's that many pages.
Yeah.
It's decent, not decent enough for somebody to give up that much time. Yeah. I agree. But all right, well, next time you get to pick the book. You tell me.
Do?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So you pick
you'll have to give me like you'll have to give me choices because I feel
Okay.
like your reading is so much more intellectual than mine.
I think we actually I think we're very similar because usually the books you pick, you'll mention a book like you've already read or I've already read or that I've wanted to read. So we're pretty much on the same.
Do you read your books like I think you mentioned this in a comment? Do you read like a segment of a book and then you change books and then you read a segment of a book and then you change books?
I'm in the middle of 10 books at any given time. At least.
Wow. See, I can't do well, I take that back. I can read one and listen to one and my mom's like, I don't understand how you process both stories.
Well, reading I was like that for a long time where it was one book and then I just looked at it like almost like Netflix. It's like I'm not just watching one. It's pretty easy. I may have to go back a page and catch up to where I was, but other than that it's almost just what I always was doing was I found myself reading and then I'd be like, oh, I can't wait to start that book. So I'd almost be reading, trying to get finished with the book to get to the next book.
Yeah.
Which isn't good for either book. So then I were like, hey, set that one down. Let me just start this one. And it's easier than you think. It really is.
Yeah, I believe you. Just a little too like my brain has too many directions right now. Like there's my lesson planner and my
believe
iPad. Me. So I'm great. Like just so much. But
I'm with you. I'm slow. I'm a slow reader too, so it takes me a little while, and especially with everything going on. Summer's my time. I'll do a little bit better. Yeah. All right, so I'm having you back in fall. We'll talk. All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.